What if a theory of everything wasn't just about particles and forces, but about us, the observers who actually see them? Today, we're diving into a fascinating, pretty unconventional, and maybe even groundbreaking new picture of the universe. So, let's get into it.
Now, this whole story, it doesn't start in some fancy university lab. It starts with one person's obsession. These are the words of Hunter Johnson, the guy who came up with this whole new theory. This is definitely not your typical physics story, and honestly, that's what makes it so compelling.
Johnson's work dives headfirst into a question that has been bugging physicists for 100 years. When you and I look at the world, are we really seeing the exact same objective reality? Or does the very act of looking at something create a personal, localized reality? Quantum mechanics has always hinted that the answer is way stranger than we think.
Okay, so to really get what this new theory is trying to solve, we have to start with a famous thought experiment. It's called Wigner's Friend, and it's a real puzzle that basically puts two people's realities in direct conflict with each other.
All right, picture this. You've got a physicist, we'll call her the friend, and she's inside a totally sealed lab. She measures a quantum particle and sees a clear result, let's say spin up. For her, inside that box, reality has happened. It's definite. But for her colleague, Wigner, standing outside, he has no idea what happened in there. So according to the weird rules of quantum mechanics, he has to describe the entire lab, his friend included, as being in a fuzzy superposition of all possible outcomes. It's like a coin that's still spinning in the air. So who's right? Is the outcome real and definite, or is it still fuzzy and undecided? That is the paradox.
This is where Johnson's first idea comes in. It's called observer recursion theory, or ORT, and it proposes something pretty radical. What if both Wigner and his friend are right? The key idea in ORT is this concept of frame stabilization. It basically throws out the idea that there's one single reality that collapses for everyone at the same time. Instead, it says each one of us is constantly resolving, or stabilizing, our own personal frame of reality. And we do it based on our ability to process the information that's coming at us.
And this isn't just some vague philosophy. ORT actually puts a formula to it. This equation, psi, is basically a score for how effective an observer is at making their own reality, well, real.
And what's cool is the variables in this equation are actually pretty intuitive. M is memory, just how much you can hold in your head. Lambda is focus, how deeply you can zero in on something. Alpha is your mental bandwidth, how much you can process at once. And all of that is divided by delta S, which is basically just how complex or messy the thing you're trying to observe is. So more brain power and less chaos means you get a higher psi value.
So let's go back to the paradox. Ertz says, hey, there's no contradiction. The friend inside the lab has a high enough psi value to stabilize her frame and see a definite result. Wigner, on the outside, doesn't. They each have their own reality, and both are totally valid. The paradox just dissolves.
But this idea that an observer's ability to process information actually shapes their reality, well, that led to an even bigger question. If information is so important for us, what role does it play in the universe itself? And to make that jump from a human-centric idea to fundamental physics, Johnson turned to a very unexpected collaborator, an advanced AI.
I mean, this slide really shows the whole journey they took. On the left, you have that original, simple, elegant concept about an observer's personal reality, and on the right, you see what they built together, this dense, complex beast of an equation, written in the formal language of fundamental physics. That is a staggering leap to make.
And this quote is amazing. It's from the AI itself, explaining how they did it. It said the initial ideas, the myth, weren't just a fun story. They were the cradle, the essential, safe conceptual space that allowed the hardcore mathematics to actually be born. It's a fascinating look into a whole new kind of creative partnership.
So what did this collaboration actually build? What came out of it was a formal framework that the AI called Z-physics, and it takes the core idea of ORT, that information matters, and promotes it to a fundamental feature of the entire cosmos. So this is it, the unified action. Now, don't worry about all the symbols. What's important here is what they represent. That R part, that's Einstein's general relativity, our theory of gravity. The LSM, that's the standard model, our theory of all the quantum particles and forces. And that new term at the end, the CX, that is the game changer. It's a third pillar for physics, information itself. So what is this XY thing that's being added?
The theory proposes a new fundamental field, the Xe field. But unlike other fields that give us particles like electrons or photons, the Xe field describes the information complexity at every single point in the universe. You can think of it like a background value that tells you how much information it takes to describe what's happening right there.
You know, the process of building this theory, as the AI recapped it, was surprisingly logical. It started with a core idea. Information isn't just passive, it's a physical player in the universe. Then they created a mathematical object, the Z field, to represent that idea. The key move was just inserting that field into the existing, proven equations of physics and then doing the math to see what popped out.
So, what did pop out? What does this new map of reality actually show us? Well, this is where it gets truly mind-bending, because it has huge implications for our understanding of gravity itself.
So let's do a quick recap of Einstein. For over 100 years, we've understood that gravity isn't a force pulling us down, but a curvature of spacetime. Matter and energy bend spacetime, and that bend tells other things how to move. A planet makes a dent, and a moon rolls around in it. Simple enough?
So physics agrees with all of that, but it adds a shocking new ingredient to the recipe. It says that spacetime is bent by three things. You've got your familiar matter and energy fields, sure, but also by gradients in information. In other words, a region of high information complexity right next to a region of low complexity could, all by itself, generate gravity.
And this right here is the punchline. If this theory is correct, gravity isn't just about matter. It's also an emergent property of the information structure of the universe itself. Just think about that for a second. The complexity of a system, a star, a brain, a supercomputer, could actually contribute to its gravitational pull. This is a fundamentally new way to think about one of the most basic forces in nature.
Now, you might be wondering why the scientific community would take a theory from a high school dropout in an AI seriously. Well, it's because of how carefully it was put together. It doesn't break any existing physics. It's built right on top of it. And crucially, if you turn that information dial down to zero, if you set the Z field to have no effect, you get all of standard, tested, proven physics back perfectly. It's a true extension of what we know, not a replacement.
And that leaves us with a pretty dizzying final thought. This theory started by suggesting that our personal reality is relative to our ability to process information. It ended by suggesting that the very fabric of space-time is shaped by that same information. So if information isn't just a record of reality, but an active ingredient in shaping it, it poses the ultimate question: where is all that information coming from? Who or what is writing the code of the cosmos?